privacy be respected. So for us, it's important that these people have access to all of the assistance they need. Thank you.
Edmonton South.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre will have 6.5 minutes remaining after the time provided for oral questions.
On the député, statements by members. The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Mr. Speaker, last weekend, the only thing in Saskatoon more exciting than the Blades' come-from-behind overtime victory against the Red Deer Rebels was the Saskatchewan NDP convention. As an automatic delegate, I was privileged to reconnect with many party stalwarts. Provincial NDP leader Ryan Miley unveiled Renew Saskatchewan, a plan to finance the upfront costs of energy installations and retrofits for homes, farms, businesses, municipalities, and reserves, with the loans repaid from the energy savings over time. This initiative to create jobs and reduce emissions by tapping into Saskatchewan's tremendous potential for wind, solar, and geothermal power should have us all running back to Saskatoon.
Honourable Member for Oakville.
It's with a heavy heart that I rise today to honour and remember the life of a great Canadian from Oakville, Veronica Tyrell. Originally from Guyana, Veronica came to Oakville in 1984 and made a remarkable impact on our community. She spearheaded some of Oakville's largest multicultural festivals and organizations, helping our community learn to celebrate our diversity. Veronica was the leader and the voice of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton for decades. She organized and led Black History Month celebrations and created leadership and empowerment opportunities for Black youth in our community. Veronica championed the Oakville Emancipation Day picnic. With her husband Lloyd always at her side, family came first. For her, there were no brighter shining lights than her children Andrew and Allison and her grandsons Andrew Jr. and Brandon. She was an inspiration, a leader, and a friend, and I ask all of us to honor her legacy by celebrating diversity in our communities across our great country. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to commemorate the celebration of the International Day of Older Persons in my riding of Oshawa. This past October 1st, members of my community gathered at Oshawa City Hall to raise the flag to celebrate this great day. As Canadians, we must continue to care for those who helped Canada become the great country that we know today and ensure they get the respect and support that they have worked so hard to build over their lives. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to acknowledge the Oshawa Senior Citizen Centre and its wonderful staff and volunteers. Their dedication to Oshawa and its senior citizens has been incredible. Staff members such as Sandy Black and Colleen Zaverill have done fantastic work for our community and have made OSCC the great organization it is today. I would also like to acknowledge OSCC board members Nancy Bone and Ted Eldridge for their dedication to our community. Through their volunteer work, they have demonstrated a tremendous level of care for Oshawa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fredericton. Hey, Rob.
As Canada's oldest, largest, and most important technology company, IBM has driven economic growth and innovation in Canada for over 100 years. IBM is Canada's largest investor in research and development in the ICT sector. They contribute over $13 billion annually to Canada's economy and create thousands of jobs for middle-class Canadians. In Fredericton alone, over 250 people work with IBM in cybersecurity. At the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity, students from the University of New Brunswick partner with IBM to combat global cyber threats using the company's iconic Watson Cognitive Technology. UNB is one of 3 universities in Canada chosen by IBM to analyze massive amounts of cyber data. IBM supports thousands of girls and young women in the STEM disciplines and provides $4.6 million annually in charitable giving. I welcome IBM Canada's employees from across the country to Parliament Hill today and thank them for their leadership in our communities.
Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay.
On behalf of the Democratic Party, I rise today to pay tribute to a true hero, Steve Frobisher Sr. at Grassy Narrows, an elder, former chief, former Grand Chief of Treaty 3, and a fighter for justice his whole life. Steve fought against the poisoning of his people and the destruction of their way of life. He fought against the cover-ups of the corporate crimes on the Wabigoon and English River system. He fought against the darkness of mercury poisoning, even though he lived with and he died from mercury poisoning. But Steve loved his people and their long history of independence, and he promised that justice would be done. He led the hunger strike to force the government back to the table. One day, the true story of Grassy Narrows will be told, and let it not be about the pusillanimous acts of institutions like this Parliament, but let it be about a people who are determined to rebuild and live better. And in that story, Steve Forster will live large. Go to the angels, Steve. Justice will be done.
The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with a heavy heart to honour a leader in our community who made a difference in the lives of thousands of students. Mr. Suminder Singh, a beloved high school math teacher at Toronto Secondary School in Surrey Newton, recently passed away in a tragic motor vehicle accident. This past weekend, thousands of residents attended a vigil organized by Sukhmeet Singh Sachal and Sophia Walia, and more than $15,000 has been raised for the Suminder Singh Annual Legacy Scholarship Fund. Mr. Singh made our community a better place and leaves behind a legacy that has shaped the young minds of countless youth. I offer my sincere condolences to Mr. Singh's fellow educators, students, and his family, including his wife, Kirpal Kaur, and 3 children, Jeevan, Jodhan, and Kiran.
Honourable member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jobs in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, are dominating our economy. We need more students to continue studies in STEM after they become non-compulsory in grade 10. In order to ignite youth interest in STEM, Parliament Hill will be hosting the first STEM Day on the Hill this Wednesday, October 17th, between noon and 1:30. There will be interactive displays, including a Lego robot to spark curiosity in the STEM fields. The members for London West, Nanaimo Ladysmith, and Simcoe North will be joining us for this event, and I encourage all members of this House to come and support Canadian youth in STEM. Mr. Speaker, Canada's Donna Strickland just won the Nobel Prize in Physics. Let's build on that big win and support the next generation of Canadians in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
The honourable member for Don Valley West.
I rise to recognize and remember the Honourable Donald MacDonald, who died Sunday in Toronto. Elected in 1962, he served as MP for Rosedale until 1978, President of the Privy Council, House Leader, Minister of National Defence, Energy, Mines and Resources, and Finance. Donald MacDonald était un agent de la fonction publique.
He was a public servant in the very best meaning of that word. He led in a free trade agreement with the United States. I met him when I was president of the Young Liberals at the University of Toronto. He not only took the time to listen to young people, but he also spent time with them.
Of the word, towering above us in graciousness, intelligence, wisdom, and wit. Our thoughts are with his daughters, Sonia, Althea, Nikki, and Lee, and his wife, Adrian, whose love and care for Donald were as boundless as his were for her. May he rest in peace.
The honourable member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, today is Marine Day on the Hill, and today members of the Chamber of Marine Commerce are hosting a celebration of the marine sector and championing inland and coastal shipping. The contributions of the marine sector are undeniable and a large part of Canada's successful economy. This year, ship traffic is up, helping move goods to market, reducing congestion on highways, and making a smaller carbon footprint. So how much of a contribution does the marine mode make in Canada? Well, it creates 181,000 jobs, handles 185,000 metric tons of cargo. It contributes almost $26 billion in economic activity and generates about $3 billion in tax revenue for the federal government. So indeed, the marine sector in Canada is a major part of our economy, and today we celebrate this contribution, and I invite all members to attend the reception tonight at 6 p.m. in the Wellington Building. Thank you.
The honourable member for Red Deer Mountain View.
Here, here. Mr. Speaker, I'm excited to announce that Red Deer's inaugural Canadian Finals Rodeo will take place at Westerner Park from October 30th to November 4th. Central Alberta is a natural home for the CFR, and the whole community is looking forward to welcoming these amazing athletes along with their families and spectators to Red Deer. And right on the heels of the rodeo will be the always excellent Agri-Trade Exposition that will take place from November 7th to 9th. As always, I'd like to acknowledge the Red Deer Chamber of Commerce and the Westerner Exposition Association, who have been the driving force behind Agri-Trade in this, their 35th year, and are excited partners on the new CFR venture. I invite all honourable members to come to Red Deer's Westerner Park in the next few weeks and see some of the best rodeo athletes in stock in Canada, as well as cutting-edge agricultural equipment and techniques that showcase why Canada's farmers continue to be the world's leaders in their industry.
Hear, hear, hear. The honourable member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Jessica Reed, co-founder of FEET, Fostering, Empowering, Advocating Together. Located in my riding, FEET was founded in 2011 to support the needs of the over 50,000 children in Ontario that have a parent in the criminal justice system. The multifaceted impact of parental incarceration on children can be devastating. These children are faced with many challenges, including family instability, economic insecurity, as well as compromised self-esteem, trust, and sense of security. FEET is there to help. On Saturday, October the 6th, Jessica began an 11-day walking marathon of over 400 kilometers from Queen's Park to Parliament Hill. Wow. The goals of FEET for FEET are to increase the awareness on the needs of these children, as well as to raise funds for FEET's Family Visitation Program, which supports children and helps maintain healthy relationships with the imprisoned parents. Welcome to Ottawa, Jessica, and congratulations on your accomplishment.
Nice.
The honourable member for Toronto Danforth.
Mr. Speaker, much divides us in this place, but there is one thing that unites us all. We all need healthy food to thrive. Today is World Food Day, and it's a day when we can think about the food we eat, how it's produced, and how we can ensure that everyone has access to the food they need. La communauté multiconfessionnelle.
The multi-confessional community of Danforth is organizing a march within a national campaign to honor. This is meant to make Canadians aware of food security.
PCC report here in this place. And one of the things the report highlighted was the impact that our food choices and our food waste that we generate has on climate change. Today, on World Food Day, we can all think about how we impact the environment with our food. We can thank a farmer for making that food, and we can think about our world food sources and how we can protect them. Thank you.
Merci.
L'honorable député de Beauport-Côte.
The honourable member for Beauport-Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. The Liberal government is continuing to defend the indefensible by banging away about how the USMCA is a good agreement, but it's not at all. As a Quebec MP, I feel that the government has failed. It's also failed in not being able to negotiate an end to the surtax on steel and aluminum. It didn't happen. So our Canadian products are and will remain less competitive with respect to American industry. It's completely unacceptable that this government signed an agreement while President Trump added this surtax to our products so that Canada had to open negotiations on milk. They accepted to do this without condition, also accepting to maintain the American surtax on steel and aluminum. For me, this agreement is another example
Monsieur le Président, le semaine...
Mr. Speaker, Last week, I was accompanied by the Minister of Science and Sport at Western University for the grand opening of their new engineering building. It's a facility for which I had the honor of announcing a contribution of $22.5 million in September 2016, and this through the Strategic Investment Fund for post-secondary institutions, and this on behalf of the Minister of Innovation, Science and Social Development.
Faculty member of Western, it was remarkable to see a building open that will inspire students and faculty alike to learn, innovate, and advance. An added surprise was when Western Chancellor Jack Cohen and his wife, Sharon, donated $5 million and named the building in honor of outgoing President Dr. Amit Chakma. Dr. Chakma has accomplished much in his role, including drastically increasing international student enrollment, significantly increasing...
Alois Chambly.
Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge the 60th anniversary of the Réserve Naturelle Go at Mont-Saint-Hilaire. It was bequeathed to the university by Brigadier Andrew Hamilton Galt and meant to ensure protection and conservation of nature. In 1972, the Centre of Nature was founded to continue their educational mission. In 1978, it was recognized as the leading biosphere reserve, Canadian reserve, within the UNESCO program. I'd like to recognize the work of employees and volunteers, but also the team at McGill University. For its 60th anniversary, I hope that the public will continue to support the critical work being done to protect our environment. La réserve depends on it, so does our planet.
The honourable member for Niagara West.
Mr. Speaker, this summer my Conservative colleagues and I launched the Defend Local Jobs Tour, traveling across the country to hear from workers and businesses impacted by steel and aluminum tariffs. I met with over 150 stakeholders at 26 different events in several provinces. What I heard was very concerning. Businesses said that they're cutting back orders. Others said they're laying people off. 0 businesses I talked to said they have received support from this government, despite $2 billion being promised. Let's be clear. The Prime Minister backed down to Donald Trump and signed an agreement that Trump wanted him to sign. To top it all off, steel and aluminum tariffs are still in place, and so are softwood lumber tariffs, which now seem permanent. This is a major failure on the part of the government and the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this must be the first time in the history of free trade deals that there are actually more tariffs on after the deal is done than before negotiations started.
Honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, as we know, this month is the first time that we're recognizing October as Latin American Heritage Month at the national level. Excelente! And it's about time. We have the whole month to celebrate the magical stories, culture, traditions, and contributions of the many Canadians with Latin American backgrounds that we are so blessed to have here in Canada. As the daughter of a Mexican Canadian and the MP for a riding with a growing Latin American community, this month is extra special for me. So this month, Mr. Speaker, let's find a way to celebrate Latin America, whether by listening to a song by Selena Gomez, Shakira, or Marc Anthony, watching football with Lionel Messi, reading a little Gabriel Garcia Marquez, dancing to Cumbrian music, or adding a little picante to your taquito or empanada. And don't forget tonight's celebration from 6 to 8 p.m. at John A. Macdonald with over 700 attendees, amazing entertainment, food, and of course, a very special guest. Gracias, Señor Presidente, y ¡ole! ¡Ay, caramba!
Alors.
Order. Oral questions.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Jihadi Jack, a British citizen, although we don't know if he's ever been to Canada, received help from the representatives of this government. The Liberals proactively approached him to help him come to Canada. Why? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we condemn the horrible acts of Daesh, and we take seriously the threats that extremist travelers represent. Traveling abroad in order to participate in terrorist activities constitutes an offense to the criminal code. National security representatives are looking into this, and we will bring charges when we have the evidence. We have tools to fight terrorism, such as monitoring and surveillance, collecting data, and the legitimate collection of information, as well as revoking passports. The Leader of the Opposition.
He still fails to answer the question. Jihadi Jack is a UK citizen. This government proactively reached out to try to bring this individual who has fought with a terrorist organization back to Canada. They took it upon themselves to reach out to bring this individual to Canada. Wow. Why?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we condemn the horrific and cowardly acts of Daesh and take with the utmost seriousness the threats posed by traveling extremists and returnees. It is a criminal code offence to travel abroad to engage in terrorist activity. Canadian law enforcement actively pursues investigations and lays criminal charges when there is evidence to support them. We also have a full range of counterterrorism tools, such as surveillance and monitoring, intelligence gathering and lawful information sharing, peace bonds, revocations of passports, and legally authorized threat reduction methods.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Order. The question was not which tools the previous Conservative government gave to our security agencies. The question was, why is this Prime Minister, why is this government proactively reaching out to a known terrorist fighter? This individual is a British citizen. It is unclear if he has ever spent any time in Canada. This government has reached out to try to bring him to Canada. Wow. He has an opportunity now to explain why.
Why?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, as the member opposite well knows, any government and all Canadians are united in wanting to keep Canadians safe and do everything we need to protect Canada and protect our communities. We respect the work of our intelligence agencies, of our security officials. We work with them to continue to ensure that Canadians are safe. We will not play politics with this. We will continue to focus on keeping Canadians safe because that's what Canadians expect, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has an opportunity to explain to Canadians why his government is taking it upon themselves to invite a British citizen who has fought with ISIS to Canada. Why?
Why? Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is once again trying to distort and create political crises where there simply are none. We take extremely seriously, as any government would, the safety and the security of Canadians. We will continue to work with our intelligence agencies, with our security officers to ensure that Canadians are safe and continue to demonstrate that we understand how important it is to keep Canadians safe.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, there's no distortion here. It's well documented. This government's official reached out to a known ISIS fighter, an ISIS fighter who is British. This terrorist has now received services from this government with the aim of bringing him to Canada. All we'd like to know is for the Prime Minister to explain why.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we see here is the Conservatives yet again grasping at straws to try and scare Canadians, to try and make Canadians feel unsafe. Well, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, I can tell you that Canadians can have the utmost confidence in the work of our intelligence agencies and our security officers in doing everything necessary to keep Canadians safe, to uphold our laws and our values, and demonstrate that the politics of fear have no place in this country.
Order. The Honourable Member for Rimouski, Nejad, Témiscouata, Les Basques.
Mr. Speaker, the IPCC report is clear. Unprecedented action is required to counter climate change and to try to limit warming to 1.5 degrees. The Minister of the Environment said that every country must act and we must be more ambitious when it comes to the measures that will be implemented. The Liberals have no intention of being more ambitious. They've maintained the same targets as the Conservatives, and clearly they're going to miss them according to the last assessment of federal activity on climate change. Why tell others to do more when here there's no intention to do more here and now? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, we are working to achieve our targets by 2030. We know that our work will not end there. We've put a price on pollution. We're progressively eliminating coal. We're investing in public transportation and further protecting our environment. The Conservatives, for their part, have no plan to fight climate change. And they have no intention of developing one. The NDP, unfortunately, is continuing to oppose the environment and the economy. We will continue to work to build a future that is safer for our children and grandchildren. The Right Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscouata-Les Basques. Mr. Speaker, climate change undermines our economy. Our inaction undermines our economy. The number of extreme weather events is increasing. Drought in eastern Quebec and in the prairies, repeated heat waves in Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto, forest fires of unprecedented intensity in British Columbia, and the Liberals claim to be doing more when they have no intention of changing their own plan. Could the Prime Minister at least start by fulfilling a promise that he made hand on heart in 2015 and start by eliminating subsidies worth $3.5 billion to the oil and gas sector? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we've cut subsidies and we're on our way to eliminate them as we promised by 2025. We're going to continue to work to implement a real plan to fight climate change because that is what Canadians expect. Evidently, the Conservatives have no plan, and worse, perhaps, the NDP is continuing to oppose the environment and the economy and is trying to force us to choose between one or the other. But we know that we must grow the economy and protect the environment at the same time.
Now, Bulkley Valley.
You ever notice when he talks about the economy and the environment going hand in hand, it's always the environment that gets screwed? The recent report from the United Nations has sounded the alarm on catastrophic climate change. But rather than waking up from their decades-long slumber, the Liberals are hitting the snooze button. 5 more minutes, Ma, please. Liberals promised to end fossil fuel subsidies. Instead, they dumped $4.5 billion on a leaky old pipeline. Will the Liberals listen to the 6,000 climate scientists and finally end their plans to spend billions more on yet another oil pipeline?
Hear, hear.
I want to encourage the member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley to elevate his language. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are working to meet Canada's 2030 targets, and we know we will need to do more after that. We are pricing pollution, phasing out coal, investing in public transit, and protecting more of our natural environment. Meanwhile, Conservatives have no climate plan and no interest in creating one other than making pollution free again. And the NDP continues to think that there is a choice to be made between growing the economy and protecting the environment. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with partners across the country to build a world that is safe and a good future for our kids and grandkids.
Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Tomorrow it's legal. Record-setting floods and storms, historically devastating forest fires, and a melting Arctic, and rather than bold action, we get more platitudes from this government. You know, if empty words and broken promises were going to solve climate change, Liberals would have had this thing beat decades ago, but they adopted Stephen Harper's climate change targets, and they can't even meet those. No wonder they're such experts on what Harper was thinking about. They've gone down the exact same path with the exact same result, which is the definition, by the way, of insanity. So when is the Prime Minister going to wake up to the reality and stop repeating the failures of the
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are moving forward in a way that neither the Conservatives or the NDP understand, because they still think there's a choice between the environment or the economy. We know that moving forward on putting a price on pollution is an essential part of reaching our climate change targets. But we also know that investing in clean investments, in greener energy, in better opportunities is also a part of it. And I certainly would highlight that the member opposite knows that the massive investment in LNG in his riding will be both good for the environment and good for the economy, and he should be saluting it and celebrating it.
Well, Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Vice Admiral Norman has the right to a fair trial, but by refusing to hand over documents, which the PMO has, they are in essence obstructing justice. Now, the Prime Minister has the power and the authority to hand over all of the documents unredacted. This could be done immediately if the Prime Minister would give the go-ahead, but he refuses. So what is the Prime Minister hiding, and who is he protecting?
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the honourable member knows that criminal prosecutions are not pursued on the floor of the House of Commons. Due process needs to be followed in all cases, and it would be thoroughly improper for any member of this House to comment on an outstanding criminal proceeding.
Opposition House Leader.
The Prime Minister used to say that sunshine was the best disinfectant. Well, I guess that doesn't apply when the scandal involves the PMO. These documents are needed to ensure that Vice Admiral Norman receives a fair trial. The Prime Minister's own office has this information but refuses to hand over the documents. So who is the Prime Minister protecting? It must be somebody very important for the Liberals to go to these great lengths. Mr. Speaker, who are they protecting?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the judiciary in this country, the rules of court in this country, the rules of proper procedure in our criminal courts are well known and respected around the world. They will be availed to all parties in this particular case, both the Crown and the defence, and due process will apply and justice will be done.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, like all Canadians, Vice Admiral Mark Norman should be able to defend himself legitimately. The Prime Minister's office has important documents that could guarantee him a fair trial. Among these documents, there are communications between an Irving lobbyist and the President of the Treasury Board, another Liberal, from the Prime Minister's cabinet. Is that why the Prime Minister is refusing to hand over these documents?
The Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, obviously the defence in this case is represented by very able legal counsel. They will avail themselves of all the appropriate rules of court and legal proceedings in order to ensure that in every case justice is not only done but seen to be done properly in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the President of the Treasury Board, a Liberal, has lobbied on behalf of Irving. The close connections between the member and the Irving family are public. We're all aware of it now. But to lobby on behalf of a company, the member must have obtained clearance from the Ethics Commissioner. My question is simple. Did he obtain this clearance, and why is the Prime Minister's cabinet hiding these documents?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that the Conservatives are politicizing an important matter that is before the courts. The only engagement I had with Irving Shipbuilding during the period in question was being copied on a letter sent to two other ministers. My job as Treasury Board President includes expenditure review and due diligence to ensure the integrity of government contracting. And that's exactly what I did, my job. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister for Public Safety said it's improper for any member of this House to comment on an outstanding matter. Maybe he should tell that to the Prime Minister, who deemed, even before an investigation had concluded, that the Admiral would be charged. And he refused it. So maybe he should tell him. The point that we're arguing is one very salient for the government and very salient for this place. They are hiding behind a provision of the Canada Evidence Act to prevent the defence from getting documents they need in order to prove innocence. Why are they doing this?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the Canada Evidence Act is a very important criminal justice piece of legislation that was enacted by this Parliament. And, Mr. Speaker, its provisions will apply.
The honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, this government has the ability to waive the provisions of this Canada Evidence Act, and I would submit they should do it for this reason. The regime as it currently stands is both wrong in law, the rule of law, and it's also wrong because it prevents the Admiral from procedural fairness. Now, for a government that's in love with the Constitution, I really thought that they would understand that the right to a fair defense and the right to procedural fairness of the individual would trump their desire to hide some uncomfortable things that were probably said at a cabinet meeting. Why are they putting their self-interest above somebody's defense?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I underscore the fact that the defense in this case obviously is represented by very able legal counsel. They will pursue every proper avenue to ensure that a proper defense is put forward, and this matter will be disposed of according to law so that justice is done and seen to be done.
Honourable member for North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, it's the eve of the legalization of cannabis, and thousands of people still carry records for small possession. The Liberals keep saying they'll deal with it. It's tomorrow. Where's the plan? In the meantime, Canadians continue to have difficulties with employment, rentals, and traveling. These barriers are felt even more by marginalized communities, including Indigenous peoples, for something that is perfectly legal tomorrow. Time's up. We need the Liberals to act now. What is their plan to expunge the records for simple possession?
Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Mr. Speaker, this government is very proud to have delivered on its promise to bring forward a strict new regulatory regime that's going to do an eminently better job of protecting our kids and keeping our communities safe. We have also said that we are prepared to address the existing records for simple possession in the appropriate way at the appropriate time. Mr. Speaker, the law remains in effect until tomorrow.
Honourable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly.
Tomorrow is not the appropriate time. They've had 3 years to work on this and have done absolutely nothing while these records continue to pile up. Et trop de personnes, Monsieur le Président.
Too many people, Mr. Speaker, like my colleague said, already in vulnerable situations have seen their quality of life, their job opportunities, their ability to travel impacted by having a record for simple possession. My colleague for Victoria has proposed a progressive bill that would immediately erase criminal records for simple possession of marijuana for all Canadians. Will the Liberals support this bill, yes or no? Will they do something? We don't want to hear another announcement. We want action today.
Mr. Speaker, the laws passed in this House remain in effect until they are repealed by this House. And that law remains in effect until tomorrow when the repeal comes into place. At that time, it will be the appropriate time for the government to deal with those records in the appropriate way.
Honourable member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Canadians should be concerned, Mr. Speaker. Canada's traditional security allies like the United States and Australia have banned Huawei from their 5G networks. We know Huawei is controlled by Communist China. We also know that Communist China continues to conduct security breaches and security attacks against Canada and has a history of corporate espionage. Will the Prime Minister quit playing politics with our Canadian security and ban Huawei from our 5G networks?
Here, here. The Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight that our government has enormous confidence in our national security agencies when they're going to do their due diligence, when they're going to properly look at all the relevant information and provide us with the evidence. We will follow that evidence and we will follow that recommendation. In the meantime, with regards to 5G, we're right now consulting industry. And make no mistake, we will make sure that we advance the interests of Canadians when we proceed with the rollout of 5G. We never have and never will compromise on national security.
Very good. Député de Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
Mr. Speaker, our Five Eyes colleagues, the Americans and the Australians, have already studied Huawei, and they've determined that it was a company that it was dangerous for telecommunications safety. The American sector sent a letter saying that this was a serious threat. The Prime Minister refuses to act, like our main allies have done, and is putting our credibility in doubt. Whether it be terrorists, border security, or espionage and theft of our intellectual property, the leader of our state never worries about anything. Will the Prime Minister ban Huawei today?
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite has raised intellectual property. It was actually our government that introduced the first national intellectual property strategy. This strategy is designed to protect Canadian companies. This strategy is designed to make sure that IP that's generated in Canada benefits Canadians. And when it comes to our national security interests, we've been very clear. We're going to follow the advice given by our national security agencies, and we've been very clear. We never have and never will compromise on national security.
Député de Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police has stated that no police station in Canada can take blood samples to detect the presence of drugs. He also said that legalizing marijuana will be much more difficult to manage in rural areas. But whether it be in large centres or outside of them, police officers will not be able to prove anything without a blood sample. How do the Liberals expect to ensure the safety of Canadians if the police cannot do its job? The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Speaker, we've kept our promise to legalize and regulate and restrict access to cannabis in order to better protect our youth and pull profits out of the hands of organized crime. Provinces and territories have asked for 6 to 8 weeks after royal assent to get ready, and we decided to add some time, and now we have 17 weeks. The President of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police said that police forces throughout the country are ready for legalization tomorrow.
Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, on the eve of marijuana becoming illegal, we've learned that RCMP forensic labs are not equipped to handle the expected 12-fold increase in blood tests for drug-impaired drivers. The delays caused in the spike in tests will create delays in our court system and likely lead to cases being thrown out as per the Supreme Court's Jordan decision. Justice delayed is justice denied. Why are the Liberals rushing through legalization when they haven't equipped the police to protect Canadians?
Border security.
Mr. Speaker, for a decade, the police in this country urged the Harper government to provide them with the legal authorities, investments in their training, and access to technologies, and that government did not listen. Mr. Speaker, we listened. And yesterday, the President of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police called a national conference, and I would hope the members opposite would listen. He said clearly, and I quote, "The police are ready."
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, Quebec dairy producers are angry and they are mobilizing. It's easy to understand why. 3 trade agreements, 3 supply management breaches. Family farms with 4 generations like La Terroise in my riding are at risk. Luc and his successor, his daughter Myriam, feel completely powerless. Will the Liberals fully compensate these producers, or will they simply abandon them once again?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Speaker, I appreciate my honourable colleague's question, and I can assure her we're the party that implemented supply management, and we're the government that has defended supply management. It's important to note, Mr. Speaker, that the Americans wanted to destroy supply management. We did not let that happen.
That's right.
We understand there will be impact on our farmers, and we're committed to fully and fairly compensate them to make sure they succeed. We have and will continue to support our farmers.
Here, here.
Member for Essex.
The concessions to Trump in the USMCA are many, from supply management to patent extensions to weak cultural protections. But it still boggles the mind that the government signed a trade deal with the U.S. and Mexico without negotiating an end to tariffs on steel and aluminum. At committee today, we heard clearly that under these tariffs, Canada is facing massive losses in our manufacturing sector that we won't be able to recover from. The jobs are leaving, and we won't get them back. How long do Canadian steelworkers need to wait before the Liberals negotiate a permanent removal of the tariffs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Canada-U.S. Relations.
Mr. Speaker, the unjustified and illegal tariffs imposed by the United States on steel and aluminum are harmful to the U.S. economy and, of course, our own. The national security pretext has been and remains absurd. That's why we've imposed retaliatory tariffs. It's really in sorrow and anger, of course, that these were implemented. Now is the time for us to come together and work through and get rid of these illegal and unjust tariffs on our steel and aluminum products. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Louis. Mr. Speaker, citizens of Beauharnois and the greater Lac Saint-Louis region have asked for years for the removal of the Catherine Spirit. This derelict vessel was not only an eyesore, it was also a threat to the environment and coastal communities around Lac Saint-Louis and for citizens of my riding of Lac Saint-Louis-Laval. Can the Minister of Transport update Canadians and the citizens of my riding on what our government has done in order to address this key issue? The Honourable Minister of Transport. I'd like to thank the member for Saint Louis for his excellent question and for his hard work on all issues regarding water. He is an expert in this area.
Conservatives did absolutely nothing to address this matter. That's why our government, under the Oceans Protection Plan, developed a national strategy to prevent incidents like the Catherine Spirit occurring again.
That is why I was very proud on the 12th of October that we had dismantled the Catherine Spirit. This was a promise that had been made to the citizen of Beauharnois, and this is a promise that was kept.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
When the Liberals brought in their tax increases on farmers, plumbers, and pizza shop owners, they made sure that the millionaire finance minister and prime minister were excluded for many new taxes. Their income tax increases actually only applied to the middle class, which is paying $800 more per family, while the wealthiest 1% has paid $4 billion less. And now their carbon tax will hit single mothers and seniors, but 90% of the exemption of the emissions of the large industrial polluters are exempt altogether. Why do they always tax most those with the least?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Canadians from across the country are seeing the impacts of climate change, whether it's forest fires or floods or extreme heat, or in the Arctic, which is quite literally melting. We have a plan to tackle climate change, to do our part, and also to grow the economy. We're taking measures which include phasing out coal, net zero building standards, investments in renewables, investments in clean technology companies, and yes, putting a price on pollution. There is a cost to pollution, but we have always said that we will give money back, more money in the pockets of the people who live in a province.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, there is going to be no cost for pollution if you're a large industrial polluter. In fact, let me quote a strong supporter of this government, the Toronto Star, which said, and I quote, "Ottawa downplays carbon price plan that gives more tax relief to heavy polluters." In other words, large industrial polluters get off scot-free, while the average Canadian household has to pay more. Why is it that those with lobbyists always get breaks, while those working Canadians who carry this country on their shoulders always bear the heaviest burden?
Minister of Environment.
Speaker, I can't tell you how much it warms my heart to hear the member opposite talk about how there should be a price on pollution. I'm surprised, though, because the member opposite didn't vote in support of there being a price on pollution. Yes, we have said that big polluters have to pay, and we will give more money in the hands of Canadians. We know we need to take action on climate change. We have a climate plan, but the big question is, what is the Conservatives' plan to protect the environment and grow the economy?
The member for Carleton.
Once again, the minister failed to answer the question. Her government has released a document showing that there will be up to a 90% exemption for large industrial polluters from the carbon tax. So those that pollute the most will get the lowest cost on their tax bills, while single mothers and seniors who have no choice but to heat their homes and drive to work will pay tax on 100% of their emissions. Why?
The Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I think the question question is, will the party opposite release a plan with the price on pollution? We have a plan. Our plan is working. It's growing the economy. We've created more than 600,000 jobs with Canadians.
Order. We heard the question. We need to hear the answer as well. Whether members like the answer or not, it has to be heard. The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill will come to order. Order. Honourable Minister of Environment has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians expect us to have a plan to protect the environment, to tackle climate change, to grow the economy. We have that plan. We've been able to create more than 600,000 jobs with Canadians. We've got the fastest growing economy in the G7. We have the historic low rates of unemployment. And guess what? Our emissions are going down, and we're doing this with Canadians. But
The honourable member for Carleton.
What is going down is the burden on the large industrial polluters. They are getting off because they can afford powerful lobbyists that influence this government. Now, people living below the poverty line, single mothers, seniors on a fixed income, they cannot afford to send powerful lobbyists and consultants to Ottawa. They can't afford to donate to Liberal coffers. But, Mr. Speaker, they have important costs that they have to make. Why is this government giving an exemption to the politically well-connected and putting the burden on working-class Canadians?
Minister of Environment.
Forgive me if I'm confused, because this is the party that doesn't support a price on pollution. This is the party that voted against raising the Canada Child Benefit that has raised 300,000 children out of poverty. This is the party that voted against a middle-class tax cut and an increase on the 1%. This is the party that doesn't have a climate plan. This is the party that doesn't understand that there is a real cost right now to the environment. We are paying it right now for the inaction of the previous government for a decade, and we are also growing the economy.
Honourable member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, today is World Food Day, an important day to recognize and take action to address food insecurity and to inspire solutions for change at home and abroad. Unfortunately, far too many Canadians still struggle with putting food on the table. The NDP has long fought for a national food policy which would link the farm to the factory to the fork. And we know the Liberals love to borrow from the NDP policy book, but it has been over a year since the government launched consultations on the development of a national food policy. So, Mr. Speaker, my question is simple. Where is the policy?
Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate my honourable colleague's question. And we held extensive consultations. As my honourable colleague has said, we have almost 45,000 Canadians responded online, and we have many roundtables right across the country. Right. I want to thank all the hard-working farmers, stakeholders, members of Parliament and Canadians who participated in this. Right. We are currently working to develop a food policy with the input from Canadians and stakeholders with their consultations. We are committed, Mr. Speaker, to developing a food policy that will put safe, top-quality food on Canadian tables right across this country.
Here, here.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, 4 million people live in food insecurity and 850,000 individuals use food banks every month. Yet the equivalent of $31 billion worth of food is thrown out in this country every year. The Liberals say repeatedly that they want to protect the environment and help those in need. A petition has just been handed in, signed by 167,000 people, asking for a national food strategy. Will the government commit today to adopting a food strategy to tackle food waste? Yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, and again, I appreciate my honourable colleague's question. And reducing food insecurity and food waste were among the topics discussed during the consultations, and we're considering how these issues can be put together in a policy. We've indicated we're going to put a food policy in place for Canadians right across this country that would put top-quality, safe food on the tables of Canadians. We've indicated quite clearly we're going to do that, and we will do that, Mr. Speaker.
For Banff Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business has added their voice to the opposition of the Liberal carbon tax cash grab. Small businesses are struggling under this Prime Minister, and the carbon tax is only making things worse. More and more small businesses are facing a difficult decision on whether they can even continue to afford to operate with these added costs. So do the Liberals really think that a tax which harms small businesses disproportionately is a fair tax?
Environment.
Mr. Speaker, we just heard the party opposite, other members, saying that he believes there should be a price on pollution. I'm confused. But we know we need to be working with small businesses, and that is exactly what we're doing. I have seen small businesses across the country take action on climate change. Verafor, this is an aluminum manufacturer in Ontario that, you know what they did? They reduced their emissions by almost 80%, and they saved $2 million. They would have taken action even if they didn't believe in climate change. We have an opportunity to do right by the environment, to save money, to support small businesses, to create jobs in Canada, and that's exactly what we're going to continue.
Order. Welcome member for Banff Airdrie.
Well, this government is doing horribly at all of those things. Small businesses continue to worry about being less competitive and about paying more. Maybe eventually the Liberals will realize that their carbon tax is killing our small businesses and do what the CFIB and small business owners have been calling for. Stop the Liberal carbon tax. On Small Business Week, at least, will the Liberals finally stand and defend small businesses and stop introducing policies that hurt their ability to compete?
Honourable Minister of Small Business.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses are the backbone of the Canadian economy. That is why our government lowered small businesses, lowered taxes on small business to 9%. We worked hard for small businesses, and we will keep working hard for small businesses.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, entrepreneurs are at the heart of job creation in our region, and I would like to thank them for their hard work. Every month I organize and chair meetings for the Beauport Business Network. Last week we held an economic roundtable, and surprise, surprise, most of the conversation dealt with the labour shortage. The labour shortage will have serious consequences on our GDP, and we already see businesses slowing down and others shutting their doors. This is a very worrisome situation. I would like to know if the government will make sure that this is their main priority, and what will they do to help to resolve the crisis?
Mr. Speaker, since we formed government, the member opposite is right. We've seen a growing economy, which means that small and medium-sized businesses have been hiring, which means that our unemployment rate has been dropping, which means that now we have a new problem, which is that we need more Canadian workers. And that's why I'm working so closely with my colleagues, provincial, territorial, educational, to make sure that Canadians have the skills they need to take those opportunities. We have to make sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to succeed in this labour market, and that's why we're investing heavily in Indigenous people, in women, in newcomers, and people with disabilities. We will make sure employers have the labour they need. Thank you.
Our government got elected on the promise to fight for our small businesses, to reduce red tape, and to help them scale up and grow and become export ready. Small businesses are the restaurants, stores, services, and artists we love, as well as the high-growth companies that are innovating across sectors and creating good middle-class jobs. Could the minister tell this House, Canadians, and the businesses in Whitby what is being done to highlight the contributions of these hard-working Canadians to our country's economy?
Good question. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for the question. This is Small Business Week, and it's really a time to recognize their important contributions, the small business owners to our community and our economy. Small businesses make up 98% of all Canadian businesses, and they employ over 8 million people. They are truly the backbone of the Canadian economy. Our commitment to our small business owners is that we will lower the small business tax rate to 9% in January, while providing access to help them start up, scale up, and access new markets. So this week and every week, join me in thanking Canada's small businesses.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government prioritized pluralism and peaceful coexistence in educational programs we funded. But this government just gave $50 million in new money to UNRWA. UNRWA does not promote peaceful coexistence, with books denying the historic Jewish presence in the region, and UNRWA-employed teachers posting violently anti-Semitic and even pro-Hitler content on social media. I have personally visited an UNRWA school and seen the failure firsthand. Palestinian children deserve better. So why are Liberals sending taxpayer dollars somewhere where they know those funds will support the propagation of anti-Semitic hatred?
The honourable member.
Moi aussi visité la Cisjordanie cet été et j'ai été à même de...
Mr. Speaker, I also visited and had an opportunity to see the work of UNRWA in clinics and schools. Mr. Speaker, for the next 2 years, we have renewed the same level of funding for UNRWA, and I can assure you that we take the follow-up very seriously in terms of impartiality and in terms of teacher training. Thank you.
For Timmins, James Bay.
So, yesterday, the finance minister went from arm's length to cheerleader when he stated the decision by the CPP Investment Board to invest and privatize American prisons wasn't just ethical, it represented the highest ethical standard. Now, they may be making record profits, but they rightly received worldwide condemnation, particularly the tactic of targeting migrant families where children were separated from their families and caged. This is a human rights abuse, not an opportunity to make bank. So would the finance minister explain what is it about privatized American prison camps that he thinks represents any kind of ethical investment standard for Canadian citizens?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadian Crown corporations, all Canadian government institutions are expected to live up to the highest standards of ethical behaviour and corporate governance. That includes the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board. This is important. We monitor it. We stay on top of it. What I can also say is the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board is independent of government so that it can invest to assure that Canadians can retire in dignity. We think it's important to maintain these standards and to maintain that independence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Lennox, Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Mr. Speaker, our government promised Canadians we would reform question period so that the Prime Minister is directly accountable to the Prime Minister's question period. Can the government House Leader inform this House of the progress that has occurred to make this pledge a reality? Thank you.
Question. Honourable. Order. Order. I know members want to hear the answer. So we'll have some order. Order. The Honourable Government House Leader. Order.
Mr. Speaker, the member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington is absolutely correct. This government committed to having a more open and transparent government, making sure that was accountable to Canadians across this country. Since taking office, this Prime Minister has had 27 Prime Minister's question periods, answering over 1,000 questions. Not only answering questions from leaders of the official opposition, but answering questions from members from both sides, private members, so that we can hear the challenges that constituents in their ridings are facing. I hope that other members will also be following this.
Order. It's so nice to see the House in a good mood.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Lérable.
We asked a lot of questions. We didn't have any answer at all. Talking committee, Mr. President. This weekend,
This weekend, in a theatrical move, the member for Shefford literally spat on the USMCA deal reached by his Prime Minister. He also believed in the PM's nice words, but it looks like he couldn't stomach the outcome. of the negotiations. His party is not trustworthy. Why did the government fail so miserably to protect milk, egg, and poultry producers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Canada, United States. Mr. Speaker, my colleague opposite, under Stephen Harper, often said that we should just accept a bad deal. We refuse to capitulate. We obtained a good deal for Canadians, and the deal is supported by premiers, by Jerry Diaz's union, by Conservatives, and by all political parties. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, the Nova Scotia Irving Company has good friends in the federal government. When the Conservatives were in power, Irving obtained $65 billion worth of ship construction contracts, whereas the Davie shipyard in Quebec only got one. The Liberals, once in power, attempted to derail the only contract that was given to Quebec, thanks to this suspected involvement on the part of the President of the Treasury Board, a minister from Nova Scotia. Is that the real change that the Liberals were going to deliver to Davie workers? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Was a letter that was sent to two other ministers but copied to me. Now, I did do my job as Treasury Board President, Mr. Speaker, and that was to ensure due diligence in the contracting process, to ensure the best value for taxpayers, and to ensure that we took our responsibility seriously to get the best possible equipment for our Canadian men and women in uniform, the best value for Canadian taxpayers. That's exactly what we did.
Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night in this place, we had an extraordinary emergency debate on the subject of the IPCC report. That report tells us clearly and tells all Canadians clearly that we are not doing enough, that the target that we have adopted, which is sometimes loosely referred to as the Paris target, is inconsistent with holding global average temperature to 1.5 degrees, that we need to do it twice as much and do it faster. Our best opportunity is to move other governments by announcing a new target, one consistent with the IPCC, at COP24 in December. Will the Prime Minister commit to do so?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I thank my colleague for a question, her long-time advocacy towards environmental causes in Canada, and thank all members who participated in last night's extremely important debate. As I said earlier, we're working hard to meet our 2030 targets, but we know the job won't end there and that there'll be more to do. We're finally putting a price on pollution. We're phasing out coal. We're investing in green infrastructure. We're reversing the Conservatives' reckless changes which harmed the environment, and we will continue to work with all our partners to meet our objectives and continue.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the President of the Treasury Board. In 1993, Canada signed the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement. Article 24.3.1 required Canada to develop and implement procurement policies to support Inuit-owned businesses. Not supporting these businesses is a barrier to building a sustainable economy for Nunavut. A court settlement in May 2015 required Canada to have these policies in place by July 31st, 2016, yet they have not. My question is, why has the government not honored its legal obligations, and when will they? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for this question, for raising this issue. There's no relationship more important to this government than our relationship with Indigenous peoples. We're working with the Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated on the successful implementation of the Nunavut Agreement. We're taking a whole-of-government approach to this, to developing a procurement policy directive that effectively supports economic development and jobs for the Inuit of Nunavut. We continue to make significant progress to address the concerns raised by the NTI, and will continue to work in good faith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Comme il est 15h07.
It is 3:15 p.m. According to an order already made, the House will now go to a vote on Bill C-79. Call in the members.
Not that they want to hear me a whole lot, but they can now hear me. Sorry about that. All right, I'll start over. Mr. Carr, seconded by Ms. Petitpas-Taylor, moved. Shall I dispense? We have a member who wants to hear it. Mr. Carr, seconded by Ms. Petitpas-Taylor, moved that Bill C-79, an act to implement the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership between Canada, Australia, Brunei, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam, be now read a third time and do pass. All